This episode of Needed to Hear That is brought to you by Light Source. What do we need when we're in the dark? Sometimes it's simply just a light source. Is your wife back?
Oh, yeah. Came back last night. Had a great weekend of tennis and mahjong.
Mahjong.
Loves that.
Can I tell my joke?
Loves that mahjong. No, you don't tell it because I've heard it 4 times in 3 days.
I got a mahjong in my pants.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah. 5 times in 4 days.
I can't. It doesn't ever get old for me. And Ashley says the fascinating part of the joke is that I laugh at it, and I'm the only one laughing, and I laugh hard.
Sure. Yeah, because it's not really a joke.
It's fine. I got mahjong in my pants.
Yeah, it's not really.
6.
Yeah, there it is.
I can't help it now. We need to move on. How was tennis?
Tennis was good. She played well. They didn't come with a ton of wins, but
They didn't bring home any hardware?
no. Well, she did. Let's give credit where credit's due. Holly came home with the sportsmanship award. That she was nominated as the top sportsman, which does make sense because watching her play, she is like relentlessly positive, and as a therapist, like the cooler.
Yeah.
Like very much so the person who is just like, oh, don't worry about it. Oh, we got it. Okay, you're good. Okay, like so when she plays doubles, she's the cooler. And admittedly, when she plays singles, is not flappable. She's also like just plays. I mean, like as an athlete, there's something like Holly's got a lot of stuff that you and I did not have
Patience.
as athletes.
I picture Holly, if the ball is long and she calls it long and they're like, that was in, she'd be like, okay, fine, you can have it.
Well, and I think like that honor system goes good for her because she won't get rattled if she thinks somebody else is maybe
somebody.
People,
I've thrown a racket or two.
Yeah, she doesn't get upset by that. And so, I mean, she gets upset, but it's not going to impact how she plays. And she is fast, right? She's what they call a rabbit.
Well, she's certainly doesn't have a whole lot of body.
She's can move quick.
That's right.
She gets to everything. She chases everything down.
Do you think she had any steep competition for sportsmen?
I would say where I would say it's a compliment is like when I have been around and watched everybody play, because like I love going to watch her play, right? Like go watch the whole team play.
Yeah.
When I have been around, 99% of people are like positive, having fun. Good shot
That's
from the
no
other
fun to
team,
watch,
that
though.
kind of thing. It is for me.
I like a good meltdown.
I like that. So, and so my assumption is the sportsmanship award is a big one because I think everybody's pretty kind.
Okay.
So for other people to have noticed that she was like exceptionally good to play against or an especially good teammate, I think was like a big deal.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a great, it's like the Lady Bing.
Not that she expected. Yeah, it is. It's the same. Yeah. Not that she expected it. We were on the phone. And she got like an email.
Wow.
It's like, pick up your award at the
so
judges'
happy for
table tomorrow. And so she came home with some tennis swag.
Good for her. Good for her. Have you ever seen anybody lose it on the courts?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if anybody did this weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. They did?
Yeah. There was some
Couple. Yeah.
There were some come aparts.
See, I would spectate more. And like I said, I've destroyed a couple Pro Kinexes.
I think a lot of it there is something to the idea of the overly competitive full-grown adult.
Sure.
That is like sometimes a hard archetype for me to be okay with.
Like, are we? I mean, and we're not talking about you, Ryan McKinney, or Matt Haggerty.
I loved playing with Hags. And McKinney didn't play as much. I haven't been on as many teams with McKinney, but I've been on a bunch of teams with Hags.
He's still pretty happy about his side of the score sheet in senior men's rec hockey.
Well, he's a good player.
He always has been, but I don't need him to text me his plus minus.
God bless him. I love that.
I mean, and his how many points he had that night. I don't need that.
I love it. God bless. It's funny to me because like I lose it when somebody's so competitive to the point where they're like aggressive.
Like
I
Buttercup.
don't mind.
Buttercup
if
the
you're
other day posted his stats on Facebook.
which is great.
I was like, they got
I love that there's something to that. I like that as just like guess what happened, which is way different than like if somebody were to post like, let me tell you how much of a joke this league is, and they the referees don't do this and they don't govern.
Sure.
Then I'm like, oh man, come on, like that one's tough for me sometimes. And I think because where I'm okay with, and I know this is different than posting it on social media, but like I talk about how like I have two friends that I know from the strongman and lifting community that I text with most days. Right. Like we talk in some form or fashion a couple times a week. And those text threads are literally just like shared workouts, are literally like 4 sets of 8 blank weight, 60 seconds rest, though it's literally just like the most boring, lame, no one else on the planet wants to see this.
Sure.
And Lord knows we're not getting ready for the combine.
So it's not your Facebook status.
Yeah. So it's not, I guess it's different than posting it, but like, even if I did post it, I would be posting it for an audience of 2. It would be these 2 people
right.
that are like, okay, good job.
It's like it's kind of like your wellness group. You guys are, that's one thing. When Buttercup posted that he had 2-1 and plus 7,
that's a big day.
I was like, man, he laced them up.
Plus 7 is a big day.
Because the Buttercup, I was on his line in juniors. There was a couple. That's not 7. He must have been on the ice for 10 goals because there's a couple coming against his line.
Well, because he's probably playing a lot.
That means a lot of ice time. That does mean it's a misleading stat.
I love Buttercup.
It's a misleading stat. I'll tell you who really tells me about his stats a lot is our boy Cam. Anytime there's an alumni event, he's like, oh yeah, we lost 6-4. Guess who got all fucking 4?
Nice.
Okay, Cam didn't do a whole lot of scoring in his early days. So
I'd say if he wanted to, if he was worried about not scoring enough goals, I could suit up. And
you think you let him view in?
He'd have a good day.
He's still pissed at Carrera for missing him on a 2-on-1 at 6 a.m. and like just undressed him, screaming at him on the way back. And Jason finally looked at him and said, Cam, it's fucking 6:30 in the morning. Calm down.
I don't think it's a bad story to tell because I remember how much he loved it when speaking of alumni, when I was still working for Dwight. Dwight skated with the alumni when Walt was still like on the team. That's how long ago it was, right? And Dwight came to work that day, and he was laughing to tears at talking about how much Walt gave him trouble. like chirping him and just barking at him the whole time. And I mean, Dwight
just
loved it. And there was a point that Dwight said, if I remember the story correctly, there's a point where he skates across the blue line. He winds up, right?
Oh boy, low, get out of the way.
Low slap shot or whatever. And like he just said that Walt was on the bench and was like, We use wrist shots, old man. We don't you don't need to wind up anymore. There's a lot of whip on that stick. It's going to give you everything you need. Just
that's
barking
funny.
and barking. And I mean, like, you just think like a guy like Dwight who could throw hands if he was unhappy.
I've seen him disagree with a customer.
Yeah,
before.
it could be a lot. God bless him. Big heart, but concrete hands.
Sure.
And just the fact that somebody was absolutely giving him trouble and he was enamored.
It's his love language.
Yeah, he was enamored with getting barked at. Me, on the other hand, I would have never played again.
That'd be it. Done. I mean, instead,
be
your career was ended by Bobo the Caveman.
Yeah, that'd be it. I'd be done.
Accidental cross-track.
Yeah,
right?
accidentally on purpose.
Yeah. And you were not going to worry about you starting over your career, renewing it.
No, not in any way.
As you were texting actually last week about wanting to talk about some renewal, and I said I want to dive into Table Rock.
Yeah.
Talk about so this is a good segue since you're not going to renew your career as a goaltender or a forward. And on the ice, talk a little bit about renewal and basically the fear that you told me that there's such a fear with starting over or something.
Well, the not starting over, where I would give people credit for sticking with things, which we'll get to also. There's been a couple of times that if we've hung out with Hags or somebody and they're talking hockey and Holly will say like, why don't you get on one of these teams? And I always tell her,
It's
I'm
a
like,
dagger to my fucking heart.
As soon as you hear me say the phrase 9:45 in Brentwood on a Sunday night, as soon as you know I'm unhappy. And so I have a lot of respect for the people that still do that and still love skating enough to be in that, because
they celebrate the big win down at O.B. Clark's after the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful family restaurant. Yes. But I just kind of wanted to talk about it because I had just heard a couple of stories, had a couple of people talk to me about having some relapse issues and getting some time in and then losing time and then also the amount of discussions I have with people in therapy about kind of the return to something that is good for them. When you stop doing something, it's going back to it is really, it's as bad
daunting.
as when you started it.
Yeah,
it's as bad as when you started it.
Daunting.
And I think that's like a very underrated thing. I think that if you the highest level version of that I could think of from an emotional standpoint is stuff like if you have some clean time in and you're working a program, then you relapse, then you go back into the rooms, right? The rooms are built for that, from what I know, right? It's
supposed to be, man.
But humans are humans.
Humans are humans.
And so it's really tough. And I think I've even talked on here before about how I was listening. A regular listener to Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard whenever he relapsed after, like, I don't remember, 14 or 17 years or something like that.
Don't tell me that's scary. I thought once you get to 12 and 3 months, you're good.
Yeah.
You can become complacent. You can stop working your program. You can stop doing drug church. You can.
Yeah.
Never.
No, I wouldn't do that.
Work that way.
I wouldn't have a clean break like that. But I just, it really, that's something that got me thinking is like, that's high stakes, right? Because there's life or death to something like relapse. But then there's also the amount of times that somebody really loves going to a CrossFit gym for 8 months and then they stop for 2 months and then they want to go back. But the thing that keeps them from going back is that first time that they go back and people are like, where you been? Yeah. Or the people that, you've been doing something with them for a year and then you take 3 months off and their 15 months of experience to your 12 months of experience suddenly feels astronomically different. Yeah. And it's just it's a really, really tough kind of underrated experience when you're either A, starting something new, which is one thing that we're going to talk about, or B, restarting something that you're familiar with. And I don't know which is harder because they're just harder in different ways. Like they're tough in their own ways to start something new. I'm real big. I've mentioned him on here before on a guy named Steve Magnus, who is a running coach. Actually, he's like a performance coach, but he always talks about like what is the safest way to start something, like the lowest barrier of entry. If somebody says that they want to start working out, but they're too intimidated to go to a gym, do they feel okay doing, push-ups, air squats, and sit-ups alone until they feel strong enough or stable enough to try to go to a gym? The gym's kind of an obvious use of this, but it's just that way with anything. You want to go to a yoga class, you want to join a group, you want to try to get sober. That's its own really difficult thing to start anew, right? To start over. But then if you've done it before and you stopped and you're going to go back and do it, it's its own kind of like really difficult experience.
Good friend of mine did about 6 months, and he'll say in his own way, clean and sober, and then had a relapse, and then came right back, and this person had been coming to Underground for months, religiously, and he didn't miss. But he came, I'm so impressed as you're talking about him, and I need to tell him. I don't know if I've been able to tell him of how impressed I am, because he came back. It was a Wednesday. He relapsed on the weekend. He came back the next Wednesday, and he said, or I think he missed a week in between, but he came back the next week and said, I'm 12 days sober. And he'd been coming for 6 months, clean and celebrating, and he went back to this smaller number, and didn't miss much of a beat, but came back, and the courage he had to do that. I gotta tell him. I hope he's listening. But I'll make sure to tell him in person, because as you're talking about that, he just kept hitting my mind on how hard that is and how scary that is. Even if he got back on his program, to come back where you're celebrating, which we want. We all want to be open to someone that, you can go backwards. It happens, man.
Yeah.
And you won't be judged, and you'll be loved, and be there for me if it happens to me, right?
Yeah.
That's a type of mentality, but it doesn't always feel that way.
We just, as humans, we love a good failure. We seem to really revel in the idea of it looked like you're not on your high horse anymore.
I want to see the tennis players fucking lose their shit.
Yeah, we love that for some psychological reasons that I'm not an expert on, but I know it's there. We like a good fall from grace. There's been every kind of generation has had their version of entertainment that they watch solely because it makes them feel better about themselves, that their lives aren't bad like the lives of other people. We like that kind of, what they would say is Schadenfreude, right? Getting pleasure from someone else's pain. From someone else falling off, and so even if that's not really there, we all know it exists, right?
Sure.
So even if you're returning to something, right? If you did something that you really, really liked, you fell off and you want to get back into it, and you go to that thing and okay, I just need to go in there and I need to do this because it's good for me, and I know how to do it, and I know what to expect in terms of getting back into the routine of it. We know that there is that possibility that somebody in the room is just you screwed up and you stopped coming. You bailed. You did, somebody might take that "where have you been" attitude, even if that doesn't happen, right? It's reasonable to be scared of it.
Yeah.
It's reasonable to be worried about it. I don't want it. Part of why I wanted to talk about this kind of stuff is I don't want that to be something that somebody experiences. It's that way with therapy a lot, as somebody who is very, very, appreciative and excited to be a long haul therapist, right? I always say, if you want to talk to me, you can talk to me as long as you feel like talking to me.
Say that.
And a lot of times people might stop.
Right.
They might stop, but they might not stop hey, I think I'm going to take a break. They might just, stop, can't cancel an appointment or something like that, or say, oh, I'll get a hold of you. I don't know my schedule yet. And then not, right? For whatever reason. But then what happens is, maybe a month later, they're like, gosh, I still haven't scheduled another appointment. And then they start to feel bad, or then they start to think that maybe I'm upset, or then they start to think that if they wait another 2 months and come back, maybe I'm not going to see them, right? Maybe I'm going to say no, sorry, I don't have any room for that anymore. And so talk themselves out of it. And that's just with one person. That's just with me in the room, right? There's no other, that you don't talk to a receptionist. You don't go through an intake. You don't.
Beacon.
You go through the cat. That's it. And so even there, you see that where, somebody builds up the courage to be hey, can I get something scheduled? Right? And that is this huge moment of vulnerability, because maybe you've already talked yourself into the idea that this is not going to go, or you should be embarrassed.
It's such a hill to climb mentally.
It's massive. Yeah, it's massive. I think it's just deeply underrated, these moments that we kind of vulnerably reach out and say, I need to get back in. I need to get back to doing that thing. And I that's why I say I want people to be able to do it, but I also understand the barriers to it. I also understand how hard it feels like to start something over if it is something that is somewhat challenging, right? If it's a hobby or something that you got good at, that was really, really good for you, and now you're not so good at it, right?
A little rusty.
My two things are lifting and running. You know, like if you don't lift, your strength is going to decline. And if you don't run, that first run is going to be a hard one.
Oh.
You know, and so the thought of getting back into that
Huffing
after
and puffing,
a break,
thinking about my first run.
Yeah, I mean, I think about, like, I talk about it from like a strength training point of view. The whole time that I've been running, have still made sure to keep a certain base, even when I wasn't lifting as much. You know, like to keep a base of strength, so that way, if and when I went back to it, I didn't have to build as much back up.
Heaven forbid a friend need a treadmill moving up the stairs.
Yeah, and guess where that treadmill got?
It got up the stairs.
So, you know, but I mean, all those things, like we build up skills, we build up time, we build up experience, we build up expertise, and then maybe we take a break or we stop, or worst case scenario, something bad happens.
Yeah.
And we want to return to it. A lot of us talk ourselves out of these things in some very human ways, which would be, I don't want to have to explain myself. I don't want to have to say, I haven't been here for a year because I didn't want to, or because this person said something wrong to me and I never got over it, but I know this is good for me. Like, you know, if there was a way that I could help guarantee that a person would not have to explain themselves very much upon returning to something, I would do that. You know, if I could go
bottle it up and
if I could go to a group first and say, hey guys, Tracy's going to come back next week. Don't ask her any questions. Sure. Like, you
just
know,
let it. Yeah.
I'm Tracy this week. Ask me questions. Tracy will be here next week. You know, like if I could alleviate that stress, I would, because we've all done some version of, or we're all actively doing some version of it.
I mean, I can count all the times that, and I was thinking about this as you were talking about the person that it's been a month. Now they've developed this. Chaz is, and just use you as in general,
sure.
But he's mad. He's going to be he's mad at me. I haven't called him to reschedule my appointment, and then in 2 months he's probably worried about me, and then he's got to forget about me before I call him, and then by the time that person calls you, like they've let maybe so much crisis shit happen, they've gotten to a point where they have no option but to call, and then because I've been there, it's like, and I finally. My return visits when I've had no other option.
Yeah.
And instead of just being like calling a month instead of putting up these fake barriers, are like these monsters under the bed type of barriers. Because if anybody's listening, Chaz is not going to be mad at you.
No.
Oh,
and I think
forever,
about
anything.
I like to think about how, like, I've mentioned on here before the Jesuit practice of where they will have people reflect on what it would be like to be at a scene in the Bible. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe you're just like in town and you're watching something unfold.
Table getting flipped.
But I think about like a similar thing where it's like sometimes when people are trying to restart something, I'll think about like if you had somebody that was like a follower of the Buddha, like Siddhartha himself, who taught for 50 years. I'm sure there were probably countless people who just went like, I'm not going to go today. I know he's teaching and he's great. He's really, really good. And I feel like I'm getting a lot from it, but it's so early. And I'm pretty sure that Ananda is going to be there. And I don't love that guy. That guy... He talks way more than Siddhartha. I'm there to listen to Siddhartha. I'm not there to listen to Ananda. But Siddhartha loves Ananda. He's a big fan. So he really runs the show. And Siddhartha, I don't think I'm going to go. And then you go a month or two, you know, he's been wandering around. You were wandering around with him. And then that same guy's like, man, you know, my life was going so good when I was going and just getting up early and listening to Siddhartha teach every day. He's such a good teacher. They say he's like the best. They say he's really, really maybe the best, you know, like I agree. But man, I need to get back to it. I like to think that there's a world where like some normal schlub like you and I walked into a group that Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, was at the front of the room and somebody was like, where you been? Yeah. You missed the flower sutra. He just held a flower up. Some guy in the back got enlightened.
You missed it.
You missed it. I was here.
What, were you couldn't get out of bed?
Yeah. What were you?
Loser.
You were tired? You going for another one of those walks? You say it's good for your back?
God.
I mean, I just think any great situation, any great spiritual teacher, any great meeting. I mean, there was somebody in and out of Bill W.'s meetings, right? There was somebody that showed back up and
Sure.
you know, and they were like, well, where have you been? It's like, drinking.
Right.
You know,
Fell
and
off.
It's like, you know, it's like in hindsight, history remembers you as the guy relapsing in Bill W.'s home group. You know, and that is so human to me, right? Like, I just think like there was definitely, think of any,
For every Jesus, there's a Peter.
yeah, for any teacher that you've ever thought is amazing, any author you've ever read, any famous person that has any kind of following, and like there are people that have just kind of fallen off of those messages and come back.
Wasn't Peter kind of a fuck up? I mean, I'm a pastor. I don't know shit about the Bible.
Saying, well, I mean, that probably makes you a good pastor depending on the
Actually.
day, you know.
Amen.
But I just think like it's just like so human. It's just I can name countless. I love like Thich Nhat Hanh, you know, the Buddhist teacher that died a couple years ago.
I've heard that name before.
I love him. He's just, you know, he was an incredible teacher, and we're very lucky now that even though he's gone, a significant amount of his primary students are authors of books and teachers themselves. And so, you know, that lineage holds up really well in Buddhism in a lot of spaces. And I just think like for sure, the roster of people who like left Plum Village in France where he was for decades and then maybe came back a couple years later while one of the top students with a newly shaved head was just like, oh, you're back? How was Paris?
Have a seat.
Yeah, you know, and I want to believe that it's mostly, we still have your chair, right? That's what I want for people, right? Like I want like, good, guess what? Nobody has sat in this chair and I want you to sit in this chair. That's what I want. I want that prodigal son treatment for people. But I know why it's so scary to think you might not get it.
To one of the other points you made was, and we're talking about restarting and shifting over to starting something new, because I see Ashley, what she does at her job at the church, the gathering, and director of wellness and creating groups. There's so many people out there that like my sell to them, and I'm not, and sell's a bad word, but it's a all juice, very little squeeze to sit, maybe try this group out. But it's such a scary, it's a recent, you know, so I have some friends, unfortunately, recently have gone through divorce, and there's a divorce wellness group of a lot of divorcees kind of going through. I mean, even even the legal process of a divorce, even as if it's as most amicable as possible, has nuance to it that I don't understand.
Sure.
I've never been through it, but when there's a group of people and it's a 6-week group that can understand simple nuances, and you've never been, but it's so scary. There's that barrier, and I just use that for an example. But her job is to create these new wellness groups, and a lot of times the people going to them are first timers, and it's a challenge I hear her with every day, trying to gently get people to them, but that people will say to her, "Oh, that I need that."
Yeah.
But then doing it or going is the hard part. So talk about that.
Yeah. Well, the idea of starting something new, right? Like, or starting over, which once you're an adult is pretty much the same thing, right? Like even if you're going to start something new, you're probably starting something over, you know, like that is so, it is so raw. I actually had recently told the story of when I spoke at IRC one time, and it was alumni, staff, and current clients. And the stuff that I spoke on, which I really enjoy speaking on, developing a sense of self, refuge and retreat, stuff that we've talked about a little bit here. You know, I did not say a lot of stuff that I would say was like intentionally emotionally charged and heavy, right? It was a lot of just returning to yourself, learning what it's like to be you, stuff like that. That stuff's I really care about, but I would not say, in my mind, I kept it a simple, short message with some spirituality to it, which is stuff that I really care about. And there were probably 4 or 5 people in the front couple of rows, which is where the people that were currently in treatment were sitting, that were crying. And I realized, like, that doesn't have anything to do with, like, the depth of my message.
Sure.
It has to do with, like, oh, man, even I, in that moment, underestimated how raw of a situation a person in inpatient addiction treatment is in.
Sure.
Right? That, like, even the little bit of introducing an idea,
it's wild,
in that kind of raw state was, like, they had to reckon with something emotionally, right? That's how scary that is. Because, like I said, I would love to say, oh, my message moved them to tears. Sure. And that's not it, right?
Listen, it's funny. Saturday nights here when I do church or underground, it's here at treatment, and it's nothing I'm saying, but I now I have. You just made sense of it.
Yeah, because that's what I noticed in that group. I got great feedback. I love to see everybody. I love talking to everybody. But the people in the room who were visibly emotional would be the people that were doing some form of starting over.
Yeah.
Some form of, new version of their life. And even if you were to say, oh, actually, that's not true. We know who those 5 people are. They all left and they went back to using. In that moment,
sure, right. It doesn't matter
like, in that absolute moment, that's what they're feeling. And so I think, like, when you think about getting people into a group, for instance, or getting people to start something new, when we are looking to start something new, most of us are doing it either A, hopefully because we're curious, but B, because we started to notice something was lacking. We needed something, right? So in the heaviest, we're talking like inpatient treatment or,
sure.
But even in the lightest, when it's like, well, maybe somebody starts, going to yoga, or maybe somebody joins a book club or something. It's a moment where we go, gosh, I need to start something good for me. And that is a risk. That is a risk.
Is vulnerability the risk?
Yeah. I mean, the other thing too is, like, when we realize that we need a little more, right? We might need some more good people to talk to. We might need some more intellectual stimulation, so we want to join a book club. We might need to calm our mind, so we want to meditate, or we want to start going to church, or we realize we need something.
Church is a big one.
Yeah, most people are living a life that is so busy or feels busy, right? Like, I don't care if somebody works 2 shifts a week. Most people live in a world right now where they feel busy. They feel like they do not have an incredible bandwidth for more, right? So
taking a shot.
It's not just because we're not going to talk about irons in the fire unless Jill's here.
No, we are not.
I'm committed that the only irons in the fire conversations include Jill in the expert chair.
And don't forget about Patrice, damn it.
Well, Patrice must be here. But I think, like, a lot of people, when they think about starting something new, the other thing is you just don't feel like they have the energy for this to not work. Like, you just don't feel like, if you're going to say, fine, I'm doing this thing every other Thursday, I'm going to do this 2-hour group because I know I need to get out, socialize, learn something new, challenge myself, build a better crew, get my inner circle expanded, all these things. You put all that into, okay, I'm going to try this thing. And it really feels like, I don't know that I have the bandwidth for this to just bomb, right? What if I go to underground and it just sucks? I don't like it. I don't have fun. I don't feel like it's for me. In a perfect world, you go, well, it's not for me. I'm going to try something else. Sure. But you have to have a fair amount of extra energy to just be shooting your shot every few weeks at something new because you feel this thing you need to start in your life.
Part of me wants to tell somebody that is afraid of that risk that they're not giving themselves enough credit, is that the victory to celebrate was to just go.
Absolutely.
And I think their definition of bomb is maybe where another monster in the closet, because just going, it's about a lot of people that I would say could really benefit from whether it's a change in their substance use disorder or alcoholism, or even some of these wellness groups. I'm such a proponent of them. I've received so much life from multiple different groups of these, that just going, so I'm saying the people that I think may need it. I'm not clinically or professionally able to say that. The juices, that risk is such a little squeeze, because just going even once and maybe saying I can't keep coming, that is a victory in itself to be celebrated, especially for the people that are so stuck and there's real fear about going to a group. Like, overcoming that, to me, is something to celebrate when you look in the mirror.
Well, the other thing too is where we sell ourselves short is when we are hoping to start something new that might be good for us, or return to something that we know historically has been good for us. We also forget the timeline of probably how many things we have successfully quit.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing wrong with I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I like that for a while. It's not my thing.
And that's okay.
Yeah. And if you start looking at the way that your timeline unfolds, you're going to see a lot of things. You may even remember oh my God, I did go to that group a couple of times.
I haven't been to Fridays in a month.
Yeah. See, and it's
still there.
Well, yeah, in spirit.
God bless that.
But those kinds of things, we just kind of forget that.
I love that way you put that. Success. I mean, we don't chalk those up in a win count, which we should if we're going to really keep score.
Yeah, I mean, you can quit something.
All the.
It's okay. You're the difference between
Charlie don't play Minecraft no more.
I stopped doing that, and identifying as a quitter is a pretty big gap, right? If you stopping something, and don't get me wrong, I am a person that is loyal to a fault.
Yeah.
I am the noblest of doormats. I
stop
and I get that, and I will hang in with something for a really long time, maybe even way past the point of it being good for me. But to stop that is not a failure,
right?
To quit something, and I don't mean it's toxic and you won't quit it. I just mean you might be to use the phrase, right? The juice isn't worth the squeeze. I'm not getting from this what I need to get from this, and I can simply not do it.
Brooke hasn't got this message, but Charlie doesn't play Fortnite anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. You're allowed to be that's enough. He's not interesting.
And there was a time where that I was sick that Fortnite where the sun don't shine. It was so. I mean, my whole life was Fortnite.
Yeah, you loved it.
Kids are able to do that.
Well, there's, this is definitely not his, but I remember learning it initially from a guy named Albert Ellis, who developed rational emotive behavioral therapy, which was the precursor to cognitive behavioral therapy, which Aaron Beck mostly developed. Ellis used to talk to therapists about this idea of failing fast, right? He used to say,
I'm listening.
If you as a therapist, but even if you're a new therapist, right, he would say, this is kind of like a supervision talk. He's if you're a new therapist, you probably have 3, 4, 5 kind of therapy things you like, interventions, models, something like that. And you do like them, and you do feel comfortable with them, right? Cognitive behavioral therapy is that for a lot of us when we're out of school. The first therapy style that really makes sense when you're learning how to be a therapist is helping somebody identify patterns in their thinking that aren't good for them and seeing if they can neutralize or reframe them. That makes sense a little bit more than transference, countertransference in the unconscious mind.
You're losing me.
Yeah. So but Ellis's point was you get those things, and he's as far as I'm concerned, list 1 through 5, with 1 being your favorite, and always start there. And the second that the person you're talking to in therapy doesn't vibe, get out of there. Go to number 2. Get out of there. Go to number 3. He's like, by the time you've been a therapist for 10, 15 years, that list is 300-400 deep.
Nice.
So you just,
Sure.
like as long as you learn to not like hang in too long with something that's not engaging, that's going to be better for the relationship. That's going to be better for the process. Well, similar to yourself, right? Like we do something, the therapy is like very guilty of this for reasons that are mostly well-intended, which since we talk about how important the relationship is in therapy, you have to have the right fit. The guidance a lot of times is you might have to go see a couple therapists, right? Schedule with 2, 3, 4 people out of the gate. Go meet with them, have a consultation with them. A lot of us, if you ask for it, will offer a phone consultation if you want to talk to us on the phone first, right? And so, we give that guidance of like, talk to 3, 4 different people. Make sure it's the perfect fit, as if that's not an incredible amount of energy.
It's so funny you say that. One of the things I was talking about starting, and I've recommended this to maybe all of my fucking friends, most of them, especially the ones from Belleville, that are struggling with a lot, that the act of pursuing or looking for a therapist, just sticking to therapy, going to a therapist and it not working out is a win, because you got out of the garage and you called. You even looking up a number for a clinician or asking someone for a referral and making that phone call, because we talked about this on Panos Anonymous tonight with Mike Fowler. That first call, that phone is a fucking brick. It's so heavy, but doing it. And if it's not vibing with that therapist, that's okay. Yeah. You learn through that, and you find another one or make another call or schedule an appointment with your doctor that you haven't seen in 10 years.
I had a wonderful therapist before Dr. Jill.
Shout out Dr. Jill.
It's here on Wednesday. And I worked with this therapist for a while. She is influential in some of the most important decisions I've made in my adulthood. And I had seen a couple of therapists before that were fine.
Sure.
One of them I had mentioned on here, I think when we were talking to Matt, I was talking about seeing a guy a couple of times, and he was great, and I didn't really like him. And in hindsight, he was on to something. But
been there.
I saw him. I saw another therapist, and part of the reason was because when I asked for some recommendations, I know that the people that were recommending therapists for me, they were recommending like somebody that they thought could like handle me. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm obsessed with therapy. I love therapy. I talk therapy. Sure. I always want to talk about it. And so they're kind of thinking like, okay, so who has like the experience to do that? And so those weren't great fits for me, because really what I was asking for is I was just like, hey, I'm like a kid that was like in a bigger body and picked on and really just need somebody who's going to like listen to me and talk to me and help me figure some things out. I did not need like somebody that's like, I know what works. You
didn't need pucks fired at you.
And so I got that. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to look for a therapist, and all I'm going to do is just like look at the language on their Psychology Today page, right? I don't care credentials, experience, modality, any of that. I just need to read how they talk about therapy. And sometimes that's like a bit of a running joke in the therapy world, because we all use the same language of like, this is a difficult journey. The first call is always hard. We use language that is easy to make fun of, even though it's like real. I say,
we're doing a whole episode on the first call being hard.
I say things about being gentle and tender and finding a soft place to land and all that, and I mean it. It's not at all a put on. I believe in this stuff. So I find this therapist, and couldn't care less about experience. I thought she sounded great, and I got an appointment with her. And as I said, the way that the therapy turned out, she was great. She helped me a lot. But even in our first session, there was a moment where she was like, I just graduated from grad school.
Nice.
And you currently own
a
private practice. She
I
was
can
like,
feel the imposter syndrome.
She's like,
sure.
Why me? And
I like her.
She was great. And I just said, I'm just like, because the way that you talk about talking to people made me think that this would be really good for me. And that was very vulnerable even for me, right? Like even I was just saying, I just want somebody to talk to me.
Sure.
I don't want somebody to map out the intervention, like as people were kind of doing, right? I was getting a lot of like, this is your problem. This is what I do to fix it. I was getting a lot of that from good therapists, from people that would be very good for someone else.
Right.
Like the other therapists didn't make a mistake. They didn't misread the room. They didn't tell me anything that was incorrect or wrong, but I needed to trust that it was okay to find what I was looking for and to have the kind of like flexibility to just kind of look for that language.
I mean, it would be like if Jesse, the executive chef at Olive and Oak, and now Bonnie came over to my house and Ashley and I cooked for her.
Sure.
That would be a little akin to...
boy, was she was a good therapist, though. Man.
And Ashley's a mighty fine cook. She
is a good
doesn't do it a
therapist.
whole lot. But what are we going to do with that?
Well.
Anyway.
About 34 minutes into every episode, I need to apologize to Ashley. And let her know, if and when she listens to this, that I had nothing to do with anything that was just said.
You had a birthday recently.
I did. Saturday.
Happy birthday.
I appreciate it.
Are we allowed to ask how old?
45.
I was guessing.
Yeah, 45.
I was guessing.
8181.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I knew it was 81, but 81, that's...
Yeah. Same day MTV came on the air.
That's so now everybody knows your like garage door code. And
yeah, I don't. That's why I don't do it. It's different numbers for that reason.
Anything fun weekend? No wife?
Every year I look forward to.
Is this going to cut deep?
No,
okay.
I get a message from Hags every year on my birthday where he also sends me the video for Video Killed the Radio Star.
You get it?
The first thing. Oh yeah.
Oh great.
And so every year I get some kind of happy birthday from Hags with Video Killed the Radio Star.
Hey man, he's got a move, he's gonna use it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I look forward to it. But no, everything else was quiet. It was a pretty simple weekend. I had a hard run on Saturday and then had coffee with Kayla and went to a bookstore with Haley, and then you and Ashley took me to dinner on Friday night. And we saw a beautiful three-legged dog.
We bought that
at White Cottage.
Was that a spiritual thing?
Which I did not cry.
I know you didn't.
I didn't cry. I kind of wanted to. I didn't get there. I didn't get there, which I probably should have. But
it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm comfortable with being tearful, but
right.
Yeah, she was a good girl.
Yeah. Diego was saying happy birthday. Yeah. In my opinion.
Yeah, it was a similar story. Of my beloved Diego, he was missing a back leg when I got him. That's when I adopted him, and then eventually, when he was diagnosed with cancer, it was because they found a tumor on his foot on the back, and they said that this would be the end at some point. This would either burst or he wouldn't be able to walk, and like that would be it. And so when we were at White Cottage Friday at my birthday dinner, somebody came up with a three-legged boxer, and they had just found a tumor on the other front leg, which would they assumed would eventually be the end of her life. So they were getting her a pup cup and making sure to take good care of her.
That stuff doesn't. I don't think happens coincidental, but
no. I also don't, not to go all like life of pi about it, I don't necessarily know that I want to live in a world where I don't want to believe in anything, like I think there is something,
sure,
when you get into like synchronicities, to be a little Jungian about it, when you get into these, like, do you think that was an accident, or don't you think this is like synchronous? It's like, yeah, because like I don't really want to be so cynical that I just say no, like I don't want to become so disillusioned, which again is probably weirdly on topic for what we're talking about, right? Like, why do people, stop going to therapy or stop going to church or stop meditating or stop going to a gym? Is usually you become disillusioned. Something happens.
Yeah.
And then I don't. We will all become disillusioned, and we all have an inner cynic. It's just You don't necessarily want that part of you making an incredible amount of decisions.
Yeah, I mean, and getting out of that state of disillusionment because, I mean, I've had my dauber down for periods of time.
Sure.
And back to my better half, and I mean that like in
literally.
Caps lock. Yeah. She says when she's suffering and when she battles with depression that she always reminds herself that this is temporary.
Sure.
And if you're out there and you're disillusioned, it's temporary. You will, I think, climb out of it. I think that.
I also think it's okay to not, if you're in a bit of what we would say is a bit of a liminal space, right? A little in between, a bardo, a limbo, that kind of thing, where you don't really know what to do next, what your next step is, what would work, what to go back to, what to start new, or anything like that. Like there is something to the acknowledgement of I'm here now and I don't know, right? Mm-hmm. Like, let's say you used to go to the same meditation group or the same church service or something every week for years, and you're like, I think I need to go back to church.
Yeah.
It's okay to sit there and be like, I don't know that that's going to do it either, right?
Sure.
Like, you also kind of want to wait for that resonant experience that maybe even what feels like a bit of a call all of a sudden, right? Like, I mean, this is why we talk about checking on one another and checking in with one another is you might have that moment that you get a message that's just like, hey, just wanted to check in. And then you're like, damn, I haven't heard from Dominic in a long time. And then, you're like, well, I know Dominic always goes to that. He always bowls on Thursday. Yeah. I might stop by and, see Dominic. I used to go up there and just sit with him and hang out. Like you never know when that moment's going to strike, but it is okay to be in between. It is okay to have kind of like a list of things you think might help, but
sure.
not really have found the one that resonates enough to really like take your shot. But I do think it's important in that to acknowledge the funk.
Sure.
You don't have to acknowledge that you have to end it or that what's going to end it. But I do think it's okay to be like, I don't know, I'm just kind of in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's probably the start of the climb out is the naming it.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's part of the process. I mean, I'm able to say or even, and I don't give unsolicited advice. I wouldn't call it wisdom because I've been through this process a couple different times and a couple different things. And each time that I've leaned into something that was on my mind of tugging at me and I answered maybe a nudge, batting 1,000 on them being worth it.
Sure. Well, I think too, like there's also a point where when you get so involved with something, it inevitably becomes part of your identity. Mm. And the navigating that identification is part of it too, because if you stop something and you feel like, okay, well now who am I without this? And then you restart it, you probably don't get to reclaim that identity right away. Right. So it's also like you're not getting to claim your expertise. You're not getting to claim your mastery. Right. If you're 10 years sober and you relapse and then 6 months later you start going back to meetings, we kind of have this idea that 10 years is not relevant information anymore, even though I would assume it definitely is. And I know that there's work to change some of the language around that, right?
Sure.
Like I think that, I'm by no means, I'm way speaking out of turn here, but I know that there is some of that discussion of like, if somebody has clean time and then they relapse and then 2 days later they go back into treatment or go back to meetings or, like, why are they not allowed to claim the years of knowledge accrued, that it falls off of a cliff, but.
And let's be clear. There is no fucking rule. Like
right, absolutely.
There's you're not gonna. Nobody's in jail for doing it one way or the other.
Yeah,
I know both sides. I know people that use that number as a deterrent that they don't want to go back to zero, and it helps them. And I know people that circumstances happen and there was a relapse, and they think that they're not allowed to go
right
to reclaim their I'm. Quote unquote 2,000 days sober, that's not my count, but that I can hear somebody saying that and being like, now I got to go back to zero, or, there was a 2-day relapse, and then you started back at 2001.
Yeah.
I don't. There is no fucking law.
Well, when I don't know, I think I maybe have said this before, but I know. So years ago, as happens in a lot of different religious settings, there was a scandal in Tibetan Buddhism with one of the
human beings messed up Buddhism too.
Oh yeah,
Fuck.
Don't even get me started.
Man, I had
the Western
ones
way
up here.
So there was a
the
scandal.
ones in the U.S. Because
No,
Buddhism started in the United States.
Who
Right?
knew? Yeah, in 1964. And so there was a scandal. It was similar to a lot of scandals in a lot of religions. There was a teacher who was at the top of one of the lineages. There are a handful of lineages in Tibetan Buddhism. One of the lineages would be led by
It was a woman.
a gentleman
Fell
named
for a woman.
the
wasn't
Dalai
it?
Lama is the guy who is the head of one of them. This was not him, but he it involved abuse
female.
and
Oh, no.
it was
Shit.
was
Trying to be funny here.
no, it was bad.
Oh, I'll shut the
it was
fuck up.
bad. It was maybe even like
Got it.
adjacent to trafficking.
All right.
Really
I'll
bad.
definitely
So
fuck
the
right
reason
off.
why I bring it up though is my teacher Justin, he said he wanted to kind of like give an open space if anybody wanted to talk about it, and he wanted to kind of address, again, this was not anything involved with him or anything involved with the lineage that he is from, but it's just important to talk about this stuff, right? I mean, this was an abuser abusing his power and really
Power, man.
Yeah.
You hate power, don't you?
I mean, it's not good for people, but so Justin calls this group, and we're sitting there, and he kind of like goes through what had gone on with this person allegedly, or the accusations that have been made against him, et cetera. And then he asked it just kind of like if anybody wanted to share. Specifically, he said like, he kind of said, I don't want to hear a male voice on here.
I remember
For
you
a while.
telling me this. Yeah.
And then people started sharing, and all of them started sharing bad things that had happened to them in religious or spiritual settings. Abuse, mistreatment, neglect, abandonment, manipulation, just all kinds of stuff.
Fucking shame, man.
It was wild. It was wild. And I mean, it wasn't even like not like people were lining up. It just kind of like was the dominoes that started to fall. Was somebody said, oh, I was a student of so-and-so in Little Rock, and I was there for 4 years. And then he said, like they start going into this and going into this spiritual abuse and religious abuse that they had experienced. And I have not experienced that. Right. Like, and so I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, my God, I mean, these people still practice Buddhism. Like, I mean, it was just so powerful to me to think about, like, you're still able to find the message and meaning and the resonance and the compassion and the warmth and the understanding and the acceptance, all the things that we want from like spiritual practice or community. Mm-hmm. The thought that like all of these people had somehow built up the ability to come back and give that a try, with Justin, who I would say is like a uniquely safe individual from what I know. I mean, sure. I've known him a long time, and he's humble in his approach and very, very aware.
You've talked about Justin for a long time.
Yeah. He's very aware of his language and how he communicates and takes that very seriously. And so I mean, I respect that a lot, but it was just like a very like, wow, I just couldn't believe it. 'Cause I'm sitting there thinking I've had like small grievances with spiritual communities that I've been in and been like, I'm gone.
I'll see you later.
I'm gone. I'll try something else. And so it's like, do I think that if somebody has like experienced some kind of like a terrible experience in some kind of setting like that they bet you should like try again? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It is totally to the individual. But it was really moving to think like, wow, I don't even know how you built up the internal process of like, well, I still want this practice. I still care about these teachings and I still want this kind of community. And I just think like, that's just like an aspect of the human spirit that it just like I'm in awe of, especially when I can see it and go, wow, I haven't been through that, right? I haven't been through that, and I'm witnessing it in real time as these just like really, people that are special to me. I'm in these groups and teachings and with these people all the time, and didn't know that, right? I mean, most of these were people that I knew, right? I mean, we were in the same courses and teachings and meditations together all the time.
I'll tell you, it reminds me of when somebody, and we talked about it a couple weeks ago, shares their story at Underground, and it's really hard. Mm-hmm. And this reminds me of the space that Justin created that you're a part of, the community created, you, all of these people, to feel safe enough to open up, like, and share those experiences. And it's a testimony to the community you guys have, with Justin as a leader, but everybody. It's not like at Underground. It's not me. It's everybody that shows up, that makes coffee, that moves chairs, that leads a meeting or goes to a meeting or helps with pizza or comes even just for a meeting at 7. And everybody that's there has believed in something bigger and create through tremendous fucking horrors.
Sure.
That a lot of the times it's in the hands of a spiritual, and they've come back to a church setting because I mean we're trying to be a landing spot for people that have been brutalized by and abused by spiritual vulnerability.
I spoke last night at the shrine.
Yeah, that's right.
And they're doing their
fucking Way of Lights.
They're doing their novena, and so they've been doing different healing from physical ailments, healing from mental health, healing from addiction, and so I spoke for 15 minutes.
I'm not proud of the way I behaved there at a wedding once. Different pre-sobriety. Adam Meyer's wedding, I was so drunk.
Yeah.
Well, and then got asked to leave the covenant.
No, the covenant
where the women slept. The elder, it was a nun asked me to leave.
Yeah, yeah.
It was not my proudest moment.
The convent.
Whatever the fuck.
My dad's colloquial is fine.
Got it. He hopefully didn't have it in for this episode.
But, we were really impressed. Holly and I were there, and I was responsible for a total of 15 minutes.
She made it back for that?
Yeah.
Bless her heart.
But it was a whole mass, right? I mean, I haven't been to a Catholic mass in a minute.
You get up and down quite a bit.
Yeah, I did the calisthenics. And,
oh, boy.
And
my Osgood Schlatters is barking.
You start waiting for, kind of bracing for, like, a certain aspect of messaging that's like, ooh, and it never came, right? Because, like, they, even in the offerings of, who to pray for and the kind of like pray for them and that kind of thing, it was like people in need of harm reduction, people in need of treatment, people in need of support.
All right.
People in need of
Our Lady of the Snows.
It was incredibly inclusive, and they went through that whole list, and Holly and I turned to one another and we're like, that was very good.
Nice.
That was like, that was the whole list.
God, they nailed it.
Yeah. I mean, they nailed it. And you just think like, I clearly I'm a practicing Buddhist, and so like I don't often think of going to Catholic church, but if you were to ask me about thinking of going to Catholic church, I would say no, somewhat under the assumption that wouldn't happen.
Sure.
I would think, well, no, because I know there's a point where it's going to be like, allow people to let the strength of Jesus to let them recognize the wrong in their ways, right? Where it's like, oh,
here's all the reasons you're not welcome.
This is not my vibe, but that's not what happened, right? Oh, so in that example, the jerk would be me, the person that is saying this is why this space is not for me. All the while, who knows how long they have said a complete form of help people heal through the following, like
we all get a little bit like that, man. Like, and they're probably like, sorry, know-it-all. We've been doing this for longer than you've been alive.
The guy that read that's probably memorized it.
Sure.
Right? Like he's probably got
it.
That
really is
committed.
Beautiful out there. I'm telling you, they do a good job. I've been tortured by the Way of Light since I was a child, so I don't do that.
The person that is like their director of spiritual coordination, who I deal with a lot, If you talked to her about the Way of Lights, you'd want to go back to that Way of Lights.
Real? Oh,
Man, she loves that
she
Way
can
of
sell
Lights.
it, huh?
She loves it, and loves, like, she loves being outside in the cold. She's like a hiker, right? Like, she's like an outdoorsy person historically. So, like, she thinks about when she's out there cold in the booth handing out stuffed animals at the end of the Way of Lights. And, you know, like, and she even says, because she comes to the meditation and Death Cafe and all that.
Really?
When like November rolls around, she's like, I'll see you in January.
Nice. She's busy.
Yeah.
She's booked.
And I just love that. When they introduced me, when the priest introduced me last night, he said that he introduced me by saying, he kind of read a little bit about who I am and what I do. And then he's like, you know, many of you may notice that Chaz is what Ray Bradbury would refer to as an illustrated man.
Oh,
And
that's incredible.
and then he said, but if there's one thing I think somebody who's covered in tattoos can teach us about, it's pain and commitment.
That's great.
And it
That's
was
good.
like, and he was really kind about it because he came up to me ahead of time and he had it typed.
Yeah.
And he was like, I just don't want there to be any surprises. If you tell me not to say this, I won't say this, but I want you to read it.
I think it could
and
have
I'm
been
like,
introduced
oh, it's
better.
great.
The only thing that made it better is if you had like Roman Reigns entrance music.
Right. Yeah. Like or the glass shatters when I walk up or something like that.
Roman won last night.
I'm aware. Yeah.
Good bout. Good storytelling.
Yeah, I like that original.
And he does
trilogy.
that. Yeah. Maria's hurt, so.
Yeah.
Speaking of illustrated woman.
Yeah. But I think about that when we were there last night, and it was like, it was beautiful and it was great. And the only thing that would make me not do that historically would be me.
Yeah. Man, we get in our own way, don't we?
Yeah. You know, and I know the priest who performed the mass I met at my day of reflection that I did there. He attended it.
Yeah.
You know, so I've already talked to him. I know, like, he's a total sweetheart, right? Like, I mean, so I know I would do anything he does now. I mean, I know I've met him. So it's not that, but it was just kind of that moment where it's like, gosh, anything that I would have said about why this is not something that I'm really interested in doing, I would have been wrong about last night. Not saying I'd be wrong every time, you know, not saying I'd be wrong every time. I'm sure
Sister Jan is proud of you.
I love Sister Jan.
She's very proud of you.
I saw, I mean, speaking of somebody that said some prideful things about me, I saw Chuck Donzie last night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see. You're going to see him again Saturday because I got you a foursome for the Juice Cup golf tournament at Tamarack 8 a.m.
Yeah, sure.
For the benefit of the Tom Pontiff 11 Foundation, as you're a board member.
Yeah, we got somebody in town this weekend.
I know she's included, your niece. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it post show.
I will talk a lot about starting over. I will talk about doing things that challenge you, and I will still not do that.
Start a new golf.
Next week we'll talk about hypocrisy. We're all doing that as well.
Well, I appreciate this. This is a good episode. I liked this topic. I always need to hear it.
The closing thing I would say about it is one of the things, and I've written about this on my Substack and sometimes teach it in some of the Buddhist stuff. But one of the ways that reincarnation was taught to me was not life after life, was the idea that, like, the version of you that existed a day ago is dead, right?
Yeah,
like
I've
that
heard you
there's
say that.
that you have been reincarnated into whatever version manifests now, and that we just return to ourselves every time we become aware of what we're doing now, or every time we decide of what we're going to be doing next, right? We're committing to another life, right? Like, we're committing to a reincarnated version of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that you know, that builds its own kind of karma, is that we can just recommit, you know,
Sure.
just recommitting to yourself day to day, waking up and committing to, like, I just want to kind of see if there's anything that I think I need today. Doesn't even mean you give it to yourself every day. It just means that you're not going a full day with, where you abandon yourself, right? You return to yourself as frequently as you can. And so any of these starting over, trying something new, that's reincarnation, right? That is your karma has accumulated and there's a new you that has emerged. And I don't care if it's the new you that's different from 5 minutes ago or 5 years ago, but you do deserve the opportunity to start anew. And hopefully somebody needed to hear that.
Amen, man.